It was the kind of night that felt colder than usual, not just because of the wind fighting through the empty streets, but because of how lonely the world seemed. People passed by in heavy coats, scarves wrapped tightly, eyes down, rushing to warmth. But on a quiet sidewalk near the corner of 6th and Maple, a girl barely into her teens sat curled up against a wall, her back pressed to the brick for shelter. Her name was Ellie, and she was homeless. She had nothing but a small backpack, a thin blanket, and shoes that had long given up the fight against the cold. She had been sleeping on the streets for a few months now. No family, no safe place to go back to, no one who called her to ask where she was. Most days, Ellie went unnoticed. People passed her like she was part of the pavement. Some looked at her with pity, some with discomfort, but most just didn't look at all. That night, Ellie sat quietly, knees tucked to her chest, trying to stay warm under the worn-out blanket. Her stomach growled from not eating all day, but she was used to it. Hunger had become normal. Cold had become normal. What still hurt, though, was the silence, how invisible she felt, like she didn't exist. Just as she was about to close her eyes and let the night pull her into another restless sleep, she heard it, a soft whimper. At first, she thought she was imagining it. But then it came again, barely audible over the sound of the wind. She turned her head and squinted into the dark alley beside her. There, huddled in a ball, was a small dog. Its fur was matted and dirty, and it was trembling so hard she could see its ribs shake. Its eyes, wide and frightened, met hers for a brief second. That was all it took. Ellie didn't think. She didn't weigh her options. She simply got up, walked over, and knelt beside the dog. Gently, she reached out a hand. The dog flinched at first, then sniffed her fingers. After a moment, it let her touch its head. "You're cold too, huh?" she whispered. The dog didn't bark or growl. It just looked at her with tired eyes, as if it understood every word. Without hesitating, Ellie took off her blanket, the only thing keeping her warm, and wrapped it carefully around the dog. She sat down beside it, shielding it from the wind with her small frame. She knew she was giving up her comfort for the night, maybe even putting herself at risk. But something inside her told her it was the right thing to do. This dog, just like her, needed someone. And for once, she could be that someone. The hours passed slowly. Ellie didn't sleep much. She kept checking on the dog, who eventually stopped shivering and rested its head on her lap. She named him Chance. She didn't know why. It just felt right. Maybe because both of them were hoping for one. Morning came with a pale gray sky and the sound of distant traffic starting up. Most people walked by without noticing the girl and the dog curled up together. But one person didn't. A man in a dark coat, carrying a briefcase, stopped in his tracks when he saw them. He looked at the girl, then at the dog wrapped in a threadbare blanket, and something about the image made him pause. He didn't say anything right away, just stood there watching. Ellie noticed him after a moment. She sat up slowly, unsure of what to expect. People usually either ignored her or told her to move along. "You okay?" the man asked gently. Ellie nodded but didn't say anything. "Is that your dog?" She shook her head. "Found him last night. He was freezing." The man crouched down, looked at the dog, then at Ellie again. "And you gave him your blanket." She gave a small shrug. He needed it more. There was a silence between them. One of those silences that says more than words ever could. The man finally stood back up. "Wait here," he said and walked off. Ellie didn't know what to think. Maybe he was just being polite. Maybe he was going to call someone to get them moved. She was used to that. But 20 minutes later, he came back. And what happened next? Well, let's just say Ellie had no idea that her small act of kindness was about to change everything. She had no clue that her life, which had been filled with cold nights and empty days, was on the verge of something she never dared to dream of. Because sometimes fate doesn't come with warning signs. It comes quietly in the form of a shivering dog, at the moment you choose to help anyway. When the man came back, Ellie couldn't believe her eyes. In his hands was a steaming cup of hot chocolate and a warm sandwich wrapped in foil. He held out the cup first. "Here," he said softly. "It's not much, but it'll warm you up." Ellie stared at him, a little unsure. People didn't usually do this. She hesitated, then slowly took the cup with both hands. It was warm, really warm, and for the first time in what felt like forever, so was her heart. She sipped carefully, the taste of chocolate melting across her tongue. She didn't say anything, but the look in her eyes said it all. "Thank you." He handed her the sandwich next. "Eat," he said, smiling. "You need it." Ellie nodded and unwrapped it slowly, giving half a chance before taking a bite. The man watched for a while, then sat beside them, his briefcase resting at his feet. "My name's Mark," he said. "I work just a few blocks from here." Ellie nodded, still chewing. "I'm Ellie. This is Chance," she added, giving the dog a small pat. Mark smiled. "Nice to meet you both." There was a quiet moment as they sat together. The city moved around them, but for a few minutes, everything felt still. Then Mark asked, "Where's your family?" Ellie looked down at her hands. "Gone," she said simply. "It's just me now." Mark didn't push. He just nodded, like he understood. "You've been out here long?" "A while," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Mark thought for a moment. Then he said something that caught Ellie completely off guard. "I run a small outreach center. It's not fancy, but it's warm. We help kids like you get off the streets. If you want, I can take you there. No pressure. Just a place to rest. For you. And Chance." Allie's eyes widened. "You mean like a shelter?" "Sort of," Mark said. "But it's more than that. We help with school, meals, even finding families when it's possible. Or jobs when it's not." She looked at Chance, who was now lying peacefully beside her, wrapped in the blanket she'd given him the night before. Then she looked back at Mark. "Can he come with me?" Mark nodded. "Of course." Something shifted in Ellie's chest, a small spark of hope. She'd learned not to trust easily, but there was something about this man that felt different. Honest. Safe. She stood slowly, careful not to disturb Chance too much. "Okay," she said. "We'll go." The walk to the center wasn't long, but for Ellie, every step felt like something big was happening. Like maybe, just maybe, life was turning a corner. The building wasn't fancy, but it was clean and bright inside. She was greeted with warm smiles, blankets, and a real bed. They gave Chance food and a soft crate to sleep in. Ellie watched as he curled up and let out a deep sigh, probably his first peaceful breath in days. Maybe weeks. Over the next few days, things started to change. Slowly but surely. Ellie got clean clothes, warm meals, and a chance to sleep without fear. The staff helped her start school again. She was quiet at first, unsure how to fit in, but the people there didn't rush her. They just showed up, every day, with kindness. And Chance? He became the center's unofficial mascot. Kids loved him. Staff spoiled him with treats. And Ellie, for the first time in a long time, didn't feel alone. Weeks turned into months. Ellie worked hard in school, volunteered to help new kids who came in, and even joined a local art program. She had a gift for drawing, something she never had the space to explore until now. One afternoon, Mark sat down with her in the common room. "You've come a long way," he said. Ellie nodded, her eyes soft. "Feels weird sometimes. Like I don't know how I got here." "You got here because you gave everything you had to help someone else, even when you had nothing. That's strength, Ellie. That's heart." She looked down at Chance, sleeping at her feet. "I just didn't want him to be cold." Mark smiled, and that one choice changed everything. Word about Ellie's story slowly spread. Not because she told it, but because someone at the center had posted a small piece online. Just a photo of a girl and her dog, wrapped in a blanket on a freezing night, with a caption about kindness. It went viral. People from around the country reached out, offering support. Donations poured into the center. And one day, a woman from a publishing house contacted Mark. "She's a gifted storyteller," she said, referring to Ellie's journals and sketches. "We think she has something special." It wasn't long before Ellie's story, Asterisk the homeless girl who gave her only blanket to a shivering dog asterisk, became a children's book. Illustrated by Ellie herself. It touched hearts everywhere. Schools read it. Families talked about it. And Ellie, once invisible, became a quiet symbol of compassion.